Now, beyond the problematic name, the rules for Smear the Queer were strange ones. Me and my friends used to stand around in this bloodthirsty circle. Someone would toss the football into the air, and the queer is the one that tried to catch the ball and pick it up off the ground, and now without getting tackled or smeared, score. Now look at this angelic face. I nor my friends had any understanding of what the term queer meant, but we knew that we did not want to be the queer. But as an adult, when I take a step back and closely analyze the actual game, the queer is actually the most courageous one. So we all should have wanted to be the queer. Yet we raise young boys to wear a mask of toughness in order to be a man. And we rob them of their childhood and their innocence. And sport is one of the many vehicles that parents choose to help their kids put on these masks. And as little boys, we learn that being labeled tough grants you a certain type of social capital. And being thought of as weak or queer is suicidal, both athletically and socially. Now, for all of the rules that I was taught about the game of Smear the Queer and the rules for how to be a man, I was never taught how to be myself and how to love myself. And I didn't start my journey towards self-love and self-acceptance until I broke these rules and took off what I call the mask of masculinity. Now, during my time in the NFL, I played with some of the greatest players of all time, including a gentleman named Champ Bailey. And beyond Champ being a future Hall of Famer, he was also a wonderful teammate. And Champ made it his business to coach us younger players. And I remember sitting in a room and having Champ say that some of the defensive backs had an extra step coming out of our back pedal. And for you non-NFL fans, defensive backs must run backwards and then, with as few steps as possible, transition and run forwards. And someone, maybe Champ, used the term wasted motion. The extra step transitioning from backwards to forwards is wasted motion. But while the other guys were watching the film, becoming better players, I was focused on myself, and I was thinking, wow, I'm standing gay. I'm walking gay. I'm running gay. Would you just stop being so gay? That was wasted motion. Most of my life, in fact, was wasted motion. In 2012, when I came out publicly, I was asked one question over and over again. When did you know that you were gay? But the question I was never asked, and maybe it's even the more important question, is when did I know that it was unacceptable to be thought of or to be gay? During my sophomore year in high school, when this photo was taken, I knew at that moment that I had an attraction to other boys. I also instinctively knew that I could not, under any circumstance, reveal, be labeled as, or have any proximal association with anyone who was out as gay or even perceived to be a queer. Because any association would force me to face who I was and simultaneously face a society that hated people like me. And though I could not verbalize this, deep down I understood with great clarity that I was hiding one of the ugliest and potentially most dangerous secrets. See, I was not just different, I was gay. And I would be giving up so much power by being gay. And I'd be violating the very essence of what I was taught that being a man was. And when you're openly gay, you create a fear in others because they believe that you have the power and the potential to get other boys to be gay too. So by identifying as an LGBT person, my existence would threaten the very social order. And growing up, I understood that I must wear this mask of masculinity every hour, every minute, every second of every day. And that included taking photographs, worrying about my pose, whether or not I looked as masculine as the guys around me. And that also meant that I worried about things like my clothing choices. I would wear 36 size jeans when I was really a 28, or a XXX t-shirt when I was really a shmedium. And shmedium, you all know, means that you're kind of in between sizes. But I think that my uncle said it best when he said, "Boy, you just haven't grown into that big old head yet." But one of the consequences of always wearing this mask is that you must remain hypervigilant to everything around you, constantly scanning and surveying everyone and everything in hopes that your performance is rewarded with a smile, a head nod, maybe even a Cam Newton dab, or something that looked like approval. But for me, wearing this mask of masculinity, it was never ending. And I also knew that one of the rules was that I must verbally and with great rage name, question, and call out other boys whose masculinity did not fit into the norm. And that included calling other kids a faggot. I used the word faggot as a weapon to enact violence on other kids whenever I could. And though these kids must have thought that I hated them, the truth is, I wanted to be one of these openly gay kids. But my struggle with internalized homophobia and self-hatred and shame prevented me from embracing them and seeing their real courage. And I also understood that the word faggot and queer weren't just used for kids who were actually gay, but anyone whose gender performance did not fit into the norm and made others uncomfortable. So I created as much distance as possible to not be labeled as a fag. And that meant also that I had to be mindful of rumors, because one rumor could cause me to lose all of this imagined safety that my many years of well-choreographed and well-performed masculinity had given me. And though I spent an enormous amount of time and energy trying to keep on this mask, sometimes that damn mask just wouldn't stay on. Now, we all know who this is. And I am the biggest Whitney Houston fan of all time. And in 1993, the Bodyguard album had literally taken over the entire world. And I was playing this album, and I was at home all alone, and I had my favorite song on, Queen of the Night. And I was spinning around singing this song because my voice perfectly matches Whitney Houston. And I was singing, I got the stuff that you want, I got the thing that you need, I got more than enough. Told you it matched it perfectly. But as I was spinning around singing this song, and after I played it about 3 or 4 times in a row, okay, I'll be honest, about 9 or 10 times I played this song in a row, I felt a tap on my shoulder. And there it was. It was masculinity, looking me right in the face, reminding me that boys don't sing Whitney Houston, that boys don't act like that, and demanding that I put the mask back on. And I remembered that masculinity represented something. And that something, just like the performance of masculinity, was ever evolving. Sometimes masculinity represented acceptance. Sometimes it represented respect. Sometimes it represented safety. And sometimes it represented power. But the performance of masculinity never, ever meant freedom. It meant that everyone, including me, would never get to know who I really was. It also meant that I was practicing a form of self-exploitation in an attempt to achieve something that wasn't even real. That wasn't even real. And over the next 10 to 20 years, even though I struggled to take off this mask, I had come out to some family and some friends. I had a job, I had a partner, all the dressings that looked like wellness. I still struggled to take off this mask. And then I got lucky. I was fortunate enough to get a job at an LGBT youth serving organization called the Hetrick Martin Institute. And it was there that I met some of the most gifted young people who saw themselves as at promise, not at risk. And these at promise young people showed me how to take off this mask. These young people didn't waste any energy reenacting scenes or reading from scripts that weren't written by them and for them. And these young people, they didn't waste any time worrying about disapproving stares. And they taught me how to love myself. They hugged me with everything that they had as they offered me the type of compassion that I had yet to offer myself. And they showed me what real power was as they erased the fear that had imprisoned me and how they gained a type of freedom. And immediately, I wanted to take off my mask. And that's me there in drag, without my masculinity mask on. Because I understood at this moment that all types of masculinities and identities deserve to be respected and honored, free from shame. No longer did I need the swagger of a Jay-Z to protect me against a world that may only see me as black and gay, or the bravado of a Deion Sanders to pretend to have confidence when I was truly dying inside, or the comedic talents of an Eddie Murphy to deflect attention away from myself. I was ready to be free. So now, when I see NFL star Odell Beckham Jr. dance with the freedom of a young child, I get my boogie on too. Or when I see NBA star Russell Westbrook push and create new boundaries with his clothing choices, I find out where he shops. And when I see Willow and Jaden Smith crush the heteronormative boundaries created for them, I pause and I want to cry. Because I know that we're all being educated about how there is no one way to be a man or a woman, or to be masculine or feminine. And I know that we're all getting a glimpse of what freedom, real freedom, really looks like. So what is the cost of always wearing a mask? What's the cost of never being yourself? The cost is never truly loving yourself and never allowing anyone else to love all of you. So we must do the work to understand what masks that we wear and get the tools to take off those masks. And then we must help others get the tools to take off their masks. And then I implore you to push the conversation even further, to find the connection between toxic masculinity and misogyny, and understand how the root of homophobia is really sexism. And then we must push it even further to understand that until women are free, men can never be free. And then we must do the work to start loving ourselves. We must develop new and sustainable practices to give and show ourselves love every day, every day. And then we must meet some people like this, some people who allow you to show up in the world as yourself, and someone who will give you love regardless of your gender performance. These types of individuals allow us to be free, because everything else is just wasted motion.